Hey, grade 9 students, I am Shiny Jane Akas and I will be your teacher for today. So for this week, we will have our new lesson, but before that, let's have first an activity. So all you have to do, so I have here two moving pictures and all you have to do is to observe and also you can follow them if you want. So let's have the first one. And we have here another one. Alright, so every day we tend to look on things around us and sometimes we need to look up and sometimes we need to look down. So why do we need to look up and why do we need to look down? So have you tried thinking that one? Alright, so we need to look up for us to see the things above us and we try to look down for us to see the things below us. Now as we look up and as we look down, there are angles that are formed. These angles are what we call angles of elevation and angles of depression. In this video lesson, we will be focusing our attention with these lesson objectives. So at the end of the lesson, the students will be able to first, illustrate angles of elevation and depression. Second is to distinguish the difference between angle of elevation and depression. And lastly is to solve problems involving angle of elevation and depression. So let's start. Let us first define some related terms. First is the horizontal reference line. It is a straight horizontal line that comes from the eye of the observer. So in other sources, this is also known as the horizontal line of sight or eye level. Next is the line of sight. It is a straight line drawn from the eye of the observer to the point or object being viewed. So again, suppose this is our observer, we're going to draw a horizontal line of sight and for example, she saw an object, for example a bird. So when she looked at it, it will also produce a line, which is the line of sight. So another example is if she saw a dog, it will also produce a line, which is the line of sight. So the line of sight depends on the object being viewed. It's either above or below the horizontal line. Now, let us formally define what is angle of elevation. Angle of elevation, it is the acute angle formed between the horizontal line of sight and the line of sight above the horizontal. So suppose again, this is our observer, we will draw a horizontal line of sight which is represented by this broken line and an object. So if she looks up to the bird, it will produce a line which is the line of sight and from the horizontal line to the line of sight, it will produce an angle of elevation. Now let's proceed to the angle of depression. Angle of depression is defined as the acute angle formed between the horizontal line of sight and the line of sight below the horizontal. So again, suppose this is our observer and we will draw a horizontal line of sight from the eye of the observer, which is the boy, and from the eye of the observer to the object, which is the dog, we will produce a line of sight. And the angle that will be formed from the horizontal line of sight to the line of sight is the angle of depression. Since in the angle of elevation, it is above the horizontal line, now in the angle of depression, it is below the horizontal line. Now let's illustrate. The angle of elevation made by a boy flying his kite. So first, let us illustrate the objects involved. We have a boy and a kite, and we will draw a horizontal line of sight from the eye of the observer, which is the boy. So after that, the line of sight would be from the eye of the observer to the object, which is the kite, and this angle now is the angle of elevation since our angle is formed above the horizontal line of sight. Second is we will illustrate the angle of depression made by a boy on the top of a cliff to its camping site. So let's illustrate. In order for us to draw the horizontal line of sight, we will start from the eye of the observer, which is the boy, and the line of sight will be from the eye of the boy to the camping site. And you can see the angle formed and the angle from the horizontal line of sight to the line of sight is the angle of depression. Because the line of sight is below the horizontal line, therefore the angle being formed is the angle of depression. Now, let us show the relationship of the angle of elevation and the angle of depression in one illustration. So, is it possible? Yes. So, suppose we have a girl and a bird. So, from the perspective of a girl, we will draw a horizontal line of sight, and when she looked up to the object, which is the bird, it will produce a line of sight and an angle of elevation. And from the perspective of the bird, let us draw a horizontal line of sight, and if the bird looked down, it will produce an angle of depression. Now, let's solve problems involving angles of elevation and angles of depression. So, for example, is point A on the ground is 10 meters away from the base of the building. If the angle of elevation is 38 degrees, find the height of the building. So first, let's illustrate the given problem. So we have here the point A, and it is 10 meters away from the base of the building. So we have here our building, and we have the base, which is 10 meters, and our angle of elevation is 38 degrees. Now let's find the height of the building. So we will use one of the trigonometric ratio, and we will use the tangent because tangent is equal to the opposite over adjacent. Since in our given we have the adjacent side and our unknown side is the opposite side, so tangent 38 degree is equal to opposite or height over adjacent, which is 10 meters, and tangent 38 degree is equal to 0.7813, and our height will be just simply multiply the 10 meters and the tangent 38 degree. Now we have the height of the building. Now let's have another example. So for example, from the top of a fire tower, a forest ranger sees his partner on the ground at an angle of depression of 40 degrees. So if the tower is 45 feet in height, how far is the partner from the base of the tower? So first, let's illustrate the given problem. So we have the fire tower and we have the forest ranger, and our angle of depression is 40 degrees and our height is 45 feet. Now we will find how far is the partner from the base of the tower. So we will use one of the trigonometric ratio, which is the tangent. Our reference angle is 40 degree, and tangent, that is equal to opposite over adjacent, since our adjacent side is given, and we will find the opposite side. So 45 feet multiplied by tangent 40 degree, that will be our opposite side. So tangent 40 degree is 0.839 multiplied by 45 feet. So our x is 37.7595 feet. So that will be our base. Now let's have an activity. So you can try these given problems, and I will give you 5 minutes to answer this. So you can pause the video and answer the given problems involving angles of elevation and angles of depression. Okay, time is up. So now let's answer your activity. So let's answer the first problem. So first, let's illustrate. So we have here our height, which is 15.24 meters. Our angle is 41 degrees, and our unknown side is the adjacent side. So our reference angle is the 41 degrees. So we will use tangent since tangent is equal to opposite over adjacent. So our opposite is 15.24 meters and our adjacent is unknown. So tangent 41 degree, that is equal to 15.24 meters over tangent 41 degree, which is 0.8693. So our distance will be 17.53 meters. Now let's proceed to our problem number 2. So in a problem number 2, we have our height, which is 4 kilometers above the ground, and the distance along the ground, which is 6 kilometers. And our angle is now the unknown. So to find the unknown angle, we will use the tangent. So tangent theta is equal to opposite over adjacent. So tangent theta is equal to 6 over 4, since 6 is our adjacent, 6 is our opposite, and 4 is our adjacent. So tangent theta is equal to 6 divided by 4, that is 1.5. And theta now is the tangent multiplied by 1.5 using your calculator, that will be equal to approximately 56 degrees. So our angle is 56 degrees. Now, as a recap, again, what is angle of elevation and angle of depression? So when we say angle of elevation, it is formed by the eye level or horizontal line and the line of sight of the observer when he looks at an object that is located higher than him. And angle of depression is formed by the eye level or horizontal line and the line of sight of the observer when he looks at an object that is located lower than the observer. So that's the angle of elevation and angle of depression.